The HOA president's voice crackled through my phone before sunrise, but the message was so absurd that at first I thought it was a prank. Please confirm your house availability for the community ceremony this Saturday. Final wedding preparations begin at 3 p.m. Wedding? At my house? I played the message again, slower this time, hoping I misheard, but the words were unmistakable. The HOA had planned an entire wedding, decorations, guests, catering, photographers, at my home without even asking. I stared through my window at the quiet street, the one I had chosen for peace after losing my wife 2 years earlier. My house wasn't just a property, it was my last real piece of her, a refuge where her half-finished gardening projects still bloomed each spring, where her laughter still felt trapped between the walls if I listened deeply enough. And now the HOA wanted to turn it into a venue for a stranger's ceremony. I drove to the HOA office immediately, heart pounding with a mix of disbelief and rising anger. When I walked in, the board members were already gathered around a table, with floor plans of my property spread out like a battlefield strategy. "Oh, David, good morning," said Linda, the HOA president, without looking up. "We're finalizing the flower arrangements. Your backyard works perfectly for the reception. Such great lighting." "My backyard is not available," I said firmly. She gave a dismissive laugh. "You're always so dramatic. The community approved this. It's for the Thompson family's daughter. Everyone agreed your house was the prettiest." "You didn't ask me." "We sent an email notice." "That was a newsletter," I said. "You mentioned needing volunteers, but you did not say anything about using my home." The room fell silent for a moment, but then Linda leaned back with the confidence of someone used to getting her way. "David, the decision is made. The contracts are signed. It's too late to change anything now. You don't even use the backyard for anything these days." That last sentence cut deeper than she realized. She said it softly, as if my grief made my home public property, as if my quiet meant consent. Something inside me hardened. That same afternoon, I found stakes hammered into my lawn, marking areas for tents. Strangers walked around taking measurements. A catering van parked in my driveway as if I no longer existed. One of them waved at me casually. "We'll be in and out," he said. "You won't even notice us." I noticed. I noticed everything. The intrusion, the entitlement, the disrespect, the way they treated me like a placeholder instead of a person. I stood inside my living room trembling with anger and the quiet ache of memories. My wife had loved this home. She had planted the rose archway herself, and now someone else planned to hold wedding vows under it without permission. That was when the idea came. It wasn't revenge. It was reclaiming control, reclaiming my home, reclaiming my boundaries. A boundary I had been too afraid to draw since losing her. The next morning, a bulldozer idled at the edge of my property. The workers looked at me uncertainly. "You sure about this?" one asked. "Absolutely," I said. "This is my land. I'm making changes." And so, as the HOA board watched in horror from across the street, the bulldozer rolled forward, not destroying the house, not tearing down memories, but clearing the entire backyard where the wedding was supposed to take place. The rose archway was removed gently and stored in my garage. The old shed, which had been half collapsed for years, was demolished. The dry patches of lawn were torn up to prepare for a full landscape renovation. Everything the HOA had planned to use was now an active construction site. By the time the dust settled, my backyard was nothing but fresh soil and the echo of machinery. No place for fancy chairs, no place for an altar, no place for anyone who thought they could claim ownership over me. Chaos erupted across the neighborhood. The Thompsons begged, pleaded, threatened. "How could you do this?" their daughter cried. "My wedding is in 3 days." "I'm sorry," I said calmly, "but my home is not a community venue." Linda stormed up to me like a furious storm cloud. "You've ruined everything. We'll fine you for unapproved construction." "That's funny," I replied, "because I actually submitted my renovation plans last month. You never responded. Silence means approval, right? Isn't that your favorite rule?" Her face froze. The other board members looked away, suddenly fascinated with the pavement. I continued. "The fines you were going to send me? I'll address them in court, with my lawyer, and every witness who can testify that you used my property without consent." The board didn't say another word. The wedding was canceled. The Thompsons apologized privately days later when the truth came out. The community whispered for weeks, arguing over who was right and who had gone too far. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a breath of relief. Like I'd finally stood up not just to the HOA, but to the numbness that had consumed me since my wife's passing. Months passed. My backyard bloomed into something new. Fresh stonework, new garden beds, a small fountain built in memory of my wife. People stopped to admire it from the sidewalk. Some even knocked on my door to apologize for how they had assumed too much. But the real change came from inside me. The bulldozer had cleared more than dirt. It cleared the part of me that let others steer my life without my voice. It made room for boundaries, for healing, for rebuilding. The HOA was forced to rewrite their policies, and Linda eventually stepped down, replaced by someone who actually believed in consent and communication. One evening, as I sat in the garden listening to the fountain, a neighbor approached and said, "David, you know, people talk about what you did like it was a story. The man who booked a bulldozer because no one listened. But I think you did something important. You taught all of us that we don't have to let people walk over us." And in that quiet moment, with the sun dipping behind the trees, I realized something. Standing up for yourself doesn't always look like bravery. Sometimes it looks like a bulldozer clearing a backyard. Sometimes it looks like refusing to be ignored ever again. It looks like choosing yourself, and that choice finally felt like coming home. If you want, I can also create thumbnail image prompts, chapter-style breakdown, or a shorter 10-minute script version.